Hey, it's Kevin McCarthy, and welcome to A Day in Real Estate. This morning, I am on my way down to the Renaissance Hotel for the economic housing forecast that's going on this morning. It's a breakfast and a bunch of speakers that are kind of give us some insights into what to expect over the next year in regards to real estate and the housing market in Central Texas. So, part of our job as realtors is to stay up to date on this stuff so that we can keep our clients informed and they can make the best decisions possible. So I will do a recap on this when we get out of here, and I'm looking forward to it. So I just got back from the Home Builders Association Economic Housing Forecast. It was really cool to be able to get back together again with a lot of other industry professionals, people I hadn't seen in a long time, and hobnob about things. We've kind of been all operating in our corners here for the last couple of years, just running our businesses and doing our thing. And it was cool to be able to get back in there and see everybody in person and learn some things. Now, a lot of the stuff that they went over on the speakers had to do with what happened and how we got to where we are. Mainly because the last 2 years nobody has been doing this, these meetings, and so being able to get back together, there was a lot to catch up on. And then kind of looking forward, things that we can do to help out the housing market. First, the home building is the first step in the building block of the entire housing market, really, because housing starts and they're the front line of what's happening. And so what happens in home building affects the entire rest of the real estate industry, going all the way down through resale, rental, apartments, everything, right? So their biggest problem right now that is kind of holding things back is supply chain stuff and worker shortages. Well, you've got two different industries, the apartment industry and home builders, operating at peak at the same time, which is not the norm. Usually apartments are up and home building's down. Or home building is really up and apartments aren't really doing anything and they're kind of stagnant. But right now, commercial building and building those apartment complexes, as in commercial building in general, and home builders trying to build homes at the same time, fighting over the same supply, which is already shortened by the pandemic, is causing a backlog. Really, that's what it is. It is a backlog. And so there is a significant amount of demand and a backlog when it comes to being able to produce to meet that demand. And so this is just causing an affordability problem all around. It's kind of funny, they showed on the chart, Bastrop in our area is the most affordable area right now. I thought that was kind of interesting. The other thing is regulation. Now, the city of Austin has been, for my entire life, definitely everybody knows it takes longer to get a permit in the city of Austin than anywhere. It's their regulation hasn't changed since the 1980s, and there's been a lot of people trying to change some of that stuff because it would really open up some avenues for affordable housing. Now there's some stuff on the table and hopefully it comes to pass, but we really need to pay attention to that stuff. Otherwise, we're going to wind up in a position where we don't have affordable housing, and the only, so then that runs into more worker shortages because people don't have anywhere to live. So yeah, you might be able to buy $1 million house, but if somebody can't work in the restaurant down the street because they got nowhere to live, it's a huge problem. So economically, it's really important that we really pay attention to that stuff. Like I said, City of Austin's been operating off of a code that actually negatively affected some stuff in the 1980s, and I didn't realize this. I work with a lot of investors, and some people, coming in from other markets, wanting to buy stuff over the years, and ask me about duplexes. Well, I mean, there's not really a lot of duplexes around Austin, and all of the ones that were built are 1980s and older. And so I learned something new today about this code that was put into effect in like 1984 that changed the regulations and pretty much dropped anybody building duplexes because of the way that it was regulated. And so now it makes sense why you just don't see them here in the city of Austin. And so that was an interesting thing that I learned. So similar sort of problems with the city's code and some of the regulating entities that kind of operate autonomously, able to change their fee structures and things like that to increase things, have affected companies like Habitat for Humanity, which is really struggling to be able to even operate in and around the city of Austin at all at this point. And so it's really important that we pay attention to that stuff, because affordable housing is critical to everyone being able to live in the same environment and enjoy things. And it can cause huge problems if we let that get out of control. So the city of Austin, it takes an average of 4 to 6 weeks to get a permit. In Round Rock, it takes like a week to 2 weeks to get a permit. The city of Houston, it takes 30 days to get a site plan in order to get a site plan approved in order to build and develop a neighborhood area. In the city of Austin, or Austin proper, it takes about 2 years. So we're going to have to, legislators are going to have to look at that and maybe back off some of the, red tape there in order to loosen up so that affordable housing can be built. Regulated so it's specific to affordable housing, though. We don't want to just let loose the door and then they just go in there and build, $700,000 houses that nobody can afford except for who's buying right now anyway, right? We do need that affordable housing big time, and that is the anchor point that affects housing going forward for our entire community. So that's highly important. Another thing that has really affected things is migration, this great migration that's happened with people who are able to work from anywhere now and leaving these high income, keeping their high income job. The pandemic changed this, but then they can live anywhere, right? Now, I think as this changed, we may see some companies go back to requiring space, requiring people to come in, and the work from home environment might back off a little bit more, which will change that dynamic, and we'll see that kind of level off, as well as our sister cities, such as Raleigh, North Carolina, Denver, Atlanta, Phoenix, cities like that, where those, although increased significantly like Austin, didn't increase at the rate that Austin did. Austin kind of blew past everybody like it had nitrous in the tank. And so it may level off sooner than those and spread that migration out to some more affordable areas or other parts of the country, and put less of a target on our backs. Now, I don't see that affecting prices where they're going to come down. But when it levels off, then it normalizes, people become more comfortable with it, and people start to move around normally as they have, and you get less of the frantic stuff that has been happening, right? Interest rates are going to start going up. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It does, take a little bit of getting used to, because we've been just spoiled with what we've had so far. especially in the last couple of years. But interest rates have been below 5 for 10 years. And so those of us who bought our first homes prior to that time remember when you got close to 7 or 8% at a certain point, or some of you older folks out there remember even higher stuff in the 1980s. And so bottom line though, even if interest rates do go up, people got to have a place to live. People are going to continue to have families, need a place for their kids and want to be in communities that have the schools. And regardless of the interest rates, that's not going to change that. People are going to migrate. We're in a great spot in Austin proper. It's a great, and we have a great opportunity here. We have a lot of demand, and I believe it will stay in high demand. But I believe it will start to kind of level off. It's going to take a little while, but it is, we will see some leveling off because of price increases, and I think slowing that migration will change. Another thing, land acquisition. 2021 was the biggest land rush in 30 years. People just bought up land everywhere. And people are sitting on it out there too. But I think as things kind of loosen up, they're going to start to kind of figure out, okay, we're going to unload this. They might make a little bit of money. They might lose a little bit of money because there were some people that came in here and paid too much for some of those pockets of land out there, probably, that a builder's, in order to develop, it just isn't going to make sense. But holding on to it, eventually that pain, they may have to let go of it. So it'll be interesting to watch how all that dynamic out around the city of Austin happens. But it was really cool to be able to do this. I've got way more information than I could even put in a video. So I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're interested in what's going on in the housing market, or what to expect, or what, if you have some worries about something. Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee, or just give me a call and we'll have a conversation about it. I'm Kevin McCarthy. It's another day in real estate. I'm passionate about what I do, and I would love to help you.